I am so sorry for killing you with that boring theme music. I didn't think it was that terrible. But good morning. Welcome to Our
It
Black
is.
News. Yeah, it is. Thank you. I'm Don Allen, joined here by co-host T. Scott. I like that. And Senator Mark Koran, Minnesota Senator, and Reverend Tim Christopher, by the order I see you on the screen. While your order might be a little bit different, let me put Anthony right there so I can see him. There we go. But we're here this morning. Welcome, gentlemen, first of all. Let's go around and check in real quick before we get into it because we have a lot to talk about. Anthony, how you doing this morning?
Good, good. Just debating if I want to go out and hit this snow or when I want to do it and how I want to dress to go out and do it. So it's here now. It's on us. It's going to be here for a while now. So get used to it and getting ready to deal with it. Try to reach one of my sons. It's hard to reach him. They know why I'm calling. So I'm persistent though. So we shall see.
Yes. Okay, Reverend Christopher, what
Good
you
morning.
drinking
Good
on?
morning.
Oh, go ahead, sir. How you doing
Good
this morning?
morning. How we doing this morning, people?
That's what we asking you. We're trying to check in.
I understand. I understand where Mr. Scott is going with the whole thing there. As far as going out, I did it yesterday, Mr. Scott, and I'm lucky enough that my boys will call and ask, Dad, do you want us to come over? But I understand I understand where you're going at this morning.
Okay. And we're going to also welcome back to the show Senator Mark Koran. He's a friend of the program, been on here before. We broke news with Mr. Edwards and Mr. Koran and Anthony here just many times and giving people information. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'll stick with the snow theme. And right now, I got a back injury, and so I can't go out and shovel. So, walking on 8 days now, I've been able to walk, and we won't be doing any snow shoveling in the very near future. So, just trying to get upright and heal. So, but overall, I think winter's here to stay. It's a little bit early, but I think it's here to stay. So, looking forward to today.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you, everybody. I know it was kind of last minute. I didn't really call anybody. I just text everybody, asked them on out loud on Facebook. Everybody volunteered to do it, and I just thought it was important that we get together and discuss, what's going on with the billions of dollars, millions of dollars, whatever it is right now, given by these agencies to the Somali community. And I mean, everyone has their point of view, and I just want to kick it off by saying that, yeah, I don't think it was right. And if we could start with feeding our future, and there's a lot of finger pointing going on, but I would like to narrow it down to the source inside of the Minnesota Department of Education and the people that signed off on it. But not only that, the local mainstream left leaning media. Because if you're getting reports and you're inside of MDE, and I'm on Feeding the Future now, let me rant for a second here, and you're getting reports that 3 to 4 thousand people, children per day, are being fed at these various locations across the Twin Cities. To me, that's a news story. That's where you get the TV cameras. That's a human interest story. We didn't have any of that during COVID. Now that, if you really think about it. So this was going on for a long time. Where were the boundaries or markers that should have been installed for people to actually go out and have eyes on? And I'm going to drop that one there. What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, I've wondered from day one. I don't see anyone from the state being held accountable. The people that approved all of this, I don't see anybody being held accountable. And it's almost like you're in a cab, Don, and you watch the ticker keep going up as you drive the miles. The numbers just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, it's just like, and so who's doing what to put the clamps on this? And also, Don, I've been seeing things now that this has been national news. I've seen this covered on national news where they've tried to put some of the politicians locally to just ask them some questions as to what's going on. So, and then I hear other states are having the same kind of thing. I hear in Ohio, there's a group and it seems to be some more of the, Somali to, and not to single anybody out. Everybody knows I don't do that. I'm not singling anybody out, but it seems like this is bigger than just here, and it just seems to still be growing. And I don't see the spigot being turned on.
No, neither do I. Senator Reverend Christopher, want to chime in?
So if you want to look at the child care, or I'm sorry, the Feeding Our Future, right? And remember, everybody, Feeding Our Future was just one half of one nonprofit. It was the only one that kind of stuck with the headlines. And what also stuck was the $250 million was stolen of the $500 million that was dedicated to feed children. Which they haven't proven that hardly any of it actually went to feed children as designed. And the other half of that money went through Partners in Nutrition, kind of set up in the same hierarchy as they get these global nonprofits who then become the lead agencies, who then kind of serve as the arbiter. They board these people, they facilitate everything, and they really do a bit of the oversight. And so when you look at it, that program started out with $800,000, $1 million, couple million, and even Feeding Our Future side, they went up to $220 million in a year. And when you think about the simple infrastructure of a program to say, oh, well, maybe we should be paying a little bit more attention. It was so gross from the perspective of the numbers, right? Don, you said some were claiming to feed 5,000 children that in a southeastern or southwestern city that didn't exist. And you know what it takes to move or procure and move $500 million worth of food with $2 at a pop? Massive infrastructure.
Yeah.
And the fraud was so blatant, right? I think one apartment building had some, 10, 12, 14 of those entities all claiming to serve between 700 to 3,000 people twice a day, not just once a day, twice a day, breakfast and lunch. And they didn't do a simple thing. They didn't even do a simple site visit. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a theme with all of these is the whether it be an adult daycare, child daycare with the child care assistance program, or these feeding sites, every single entity, every window's blacked out. Do you guys know any legal? You guys been around a long time. Do you know any business that's serving a health and human services need where every window's blacked out? It doesn't happen unless there's an alternative business being run at that site, other than that on the banner in the front of the store. But one of the things that was also done is they not only didn't go out and look. When businesses, there were 30 businesses that called, or property owners that said, hey, our name came up, this facility, this location, including one was a city park where they were feeding thousands of people. And they got all 30 of them said, these businesses do not exist in my facility. The Department of Education got that complaint directly. They sent it to Feeding Our Future to resolve it. And they paid out millions after those property owners called. That's how blatant it was. So it wasn't they were ineffective. They were willfully complicit in enabling the outbound flow of these dollars into the community to feed the people, not the food, but to feed them dollars. And really, there's a whole issue to it. It ultimately comes back in the Democrat campaign apparatus. You saw they've given thousands and thousands of dollars from the Ellisons, Fateh, all down the food chain, Jamal Osman and Minneapolis City Council. By the way, his wife also stole $500,000 in her Feeding Our Future program, for which she wasn't prosecuted, at least not prosecuted yet. And so those dollars come back in many ways through the political apparatus, in addition to grossly enriching a wide variety of thieves.
Wow, that's deep, Reverend Christopher.
I've got to go. I got to go all the way back when I was talking with Senator Roger Chamberlain. I may freeze up here a little bit. Something is really, really wrong with my Yahoo today.
Yeah, but we can hear you just
Can you hear me?
perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah.
Okay. I got to go all the way back until, 2019, 2020, 2021, when I was talking with Senator Roger Chamberlain, who was one of the Republicans who was somewhat on top of this, basically floating over the top of this whole thing. This is a top down situation, right? I mean, we can run around here and the president and the Republicans can swear up and down by brown people and throw this crap out here. But we do know that Catholic Charities, we do know that the Lutherans who brought these people here, hands are not dirty. So let's make sure that we understand that before we do damage to the Somali community. And I understand, yeah, at the end of the day, yeah, we can sit here and say that. But people was making money off of those people from the day they set foot in the state of Minnesota. That if you do to go back and do, but we don't want to do that. We think we got the smoking gun right now, and it's all brown people, and that's a damn lie. Period.
Hmm.
Point blank. So
Yeah.
let's make sure we get that straight while we're going into this thing. But at the end of the day, you're right, Don. These people should have realized that you can't be down in Wilmer with a small situation, with a small group of people, and all of a sudden you got 5,000 kids that you're feeding a day. Somebody at some point in time needed to sit there and go, wait a second, Wilmer only got so many people. So what are they busing? Are they busing people in to feed them? No, sir, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
and then then on the second half of that, which you guys said, when the Democrats were receiving this money, this kickback money, which we all know they were, because some of them are driving BMWs. Just saying, right?
Yeah, Apple phones.
I'm trying my best not to get you in trouble, Don. I'm trying my best this morning,
No,
but
no, no.
you
I'm not
made
gonna
it.
get in trouble.
You made it
Go ahead.
hard. You made it hard. I'm
Yeah.
trying my best. And that's why I always say when I come on Don's show, I got to be nice, but I can say what I want on my show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been listening
But
to
but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, from the top, whether it's Republican or whether it's Democrat, y'all dropped the ball. Period. Point blank. Period. Point blank.
Yeah, and I have to agree with
But
that.
somehow
Go ahead.
doesn't it come back to DHS? I mean, doesn't it come down to the people that supposedly have the purse strings? And I know that there's some, entity. I don't know if it's the senators or representatives that are over that process, but it somehow, I mean, I've got a nonprofit, Minnesota's Black Community Project. We got $25,000 to do a book and $25,000 to do a video. But the process that we had to go through, I mean, my sister is a doctor of education from Columbia, master's degree from Harvard. I'm a distinguished alumni of Minnesota State Mankato. I mean, I had to put all of this stuff on the line and show our taxes and everything before we got that minuscule amount of money. So this process is the thing that really baffles me, especially I go on to some of the websites of the accused now, and I don't see anything about what they've done that they show anything that shows they even have the ability to even cook a hot dog. But yet and still they're getting billions of dollars to supposedly feed all kind of kids where you need special nutrition for the kids. You need to have special menus. Some kids may have certain diets that you had to adhere to. It's not like you can just throw something in a plate and hand it to the kids. So this whole process to me is just it's very baffling when I see that I've applied what I have to go through and my tax records and everything goes there. Everything's right there. And this is a minuscule amount of money. So when you're talking 250 million pops at a time and there's no one that has any idea how this is happening, I just can't buy it.
Yeah, and I'll have to agree with everybody 100% because and something you said, Senator Koran, about feeding our future. If I'm looking at money now as the food. you know, because that's what was pushed out there. And there wasn't a hot dog, a hamburger, a steak. It was money pushed out there. But then again, that just takes me back to my original thing. What mechanism inside of this system is not working where you let $250 million go outward, outbound, and you don't have one MDE does not have one picture. I asked. I'm in the middle of a project right now. I asked. I says, I will back down. I will be your biggest supporter. I will advocate. I will come out of my writing shell and do whatever I need to do. Show me one photo of one site where kids were getting fed under the Feeding Our Future moniker. They have nothing.
100%.
Zero.
Don, and all of us, and you guys, I don't know if you follow on X or Twitter, there's been a whole host of Department of Human Services employees. There's been a ton of people that have attempted to whistleblow from the very beginning. Even the investigators, way back in 2017 when I arrived, they would find the nexus that says, hey, this child care program, right? The child care assistance program, they'd say, hey, this looks like more organized because somebody's sister, brother, or mother also has another daycare. More looks like organized crime. And every time they would call that up in their weekly review, they'd pat that little investigator on the head and say, "You just take care of this little stuff. We'll take care of this bigger, larger organized crime." And the reality is what that was, and I think you've seen it blow up extensively, is it just creeps into the same people who had the child care assistants running a fully funded state paid daycare also then have an adult daycare. Look at Omar Fateh. He ran his campaign office out of an adult daycare business, which was illegal, where they also did election fraud. That they just keep leapfrogging into others, into transportation, hardware, equipment, medical equipment, you name it. And now you've seen it go into autism services, translation services, all of those things. And the nexus just goes one, and it's really it's a fairly small group of people. And the tentacles are in a dozen different business activities, all related and all with the same model of just making it up, right? Getting it approved. And so
Wow.
as you've seen the kind of the Feeding Our Future, none of the prosecutions that you've seen are state discovered or state driven, almost exclusively. There might be a couple small ones, but it was the federal government that came in, and it's from whistleblowers that started the investigation. Don, they are the only ones who have they have the pictures, the photos, the surveillance, right? They started putting it and said, basically, even these restaurants, they said not only were they.
Okay, you froze for a minute there, Senator Koran.
And so they did their surveillance, and that's what's the numbers. You've seen them explode to a couple $100 million to now $1 billion. They're lucky if they could process a couple billion of known overt blatant fraud, if we can get enough federal resources in to help them prosecute it. But all of the fraud or all the prosecutions that you've seen let out of Feeding Our Future and all of the new discoveries are a result of that same original pool of people that they investigated and now are prosecuting and convicting for the Feeding Our Future. Because again, there's tentacles were in many different, every single program that they could dream up or create at the Department of Human Services. They create those programs, and housing, you guys heard the housing support services and those.
Yes.
Those don't have, they happen. The Department of Human Services says, hey, we got a great need, some social ill that they've identified. They write the entire program and then apply to the federal government seeking approval for it to be a reimbursable activity under Medicaid. And so when they come back and say, well, we just had no idea, it's tough to do these things. They created the process, they created the rules, and they own every aspect of it. And so for them to say, oh, we're a victim, that's pure garbage.
Yeah,
pure garbage.
I agree 100%. And what you're talking about is real, because, and I'm going to stick with MDE for a minute, because I know every grant that I ever wrote or worked on, the people inside of that building designed what it should look like from beginning to end. And the unfortunate thing is you had people in the building writing grants that just are writing the proposals that really didn't know the different systems, the different tiers of engagement that you need to make something be successful or complete. And you couldn't really challenge them on that because you're asking for money. Like in 2024, they had a grant for summer school activity, and they spread money everywhere except some black charter schools. And I'm saying, well, what's up with that? How come we don't qualify? And the 24-year-old young lady that I spoke to on the phone said, well, you didn't meet our standards or our checklists. I says, okay, that's cool, but it's not covert at all when it comes to that, and I think it's cheating. But getting back on point again, how do we get the people inside of MDE and these different agencies to figure out what happened? Where did it go wrong? Because the Somalian community seems to be bonded. They seem to be organized. They seem to be getting the money, whereas the black community here, and I ain't really talking about the brothers, I'm just saying what I see, because all the black men and women that I engage with are cool. But I do see the gatekeepers in our community. I do see the people that will push you back so they can get ahead, even though you're not even in that race with them. You just kind of, why say something crazy about me? I'm not even in competition with you. Your your ceiling is my floor. So why do you got to deal with that? But also, why the hell would you want to get President Trump's attention?
Well, hey Don, you just brought up something. I don't blame the gatekeepers anymore. I blame the people who keep going to the same gatekeepers, right? The same white liberal that always know that they can run to this person. The same church that Tim Walz black church that Tim Walz knows that I'm shocked he's not in the black community right now at one of the black churches that he done bought. And I'll say that again, that he done bought, that the Democrats have bought. Pretty much. I'm shocked he ain't got a bunch of the black gatekeepers in the community that they didn't give all this money to, that they done bought, apologizing for giving the Somali community all this money, but yet making the black community fight for a couple of pennies that they throw on the ground, and all of a sudden you see us all out there fighting each other in the streets over, or fighting on Facebook, calling each other names over the little pennies that are left. But yet billions of dollars walk out of our community to another group of people, and we get nothing because because they know that we are crabs in a barrel. They know that. They know we will fight each other. They know we will put each other down. They know that. But I watched this video the other day of this Somali little girl talking about how when they come into America, they are programmed, they are taught about how black people are, to stay away from black people, right? That's what they're taught. Don't assimilate with them. Don't be like them, because this is where they are. Because we keep each other there. That's what happens. And then they come in and try to figure out why Broadway looks the way that it looks. Why can't Broadway look like Arbor Lakes over there with all the money that comes into the black community? Why can't Broadway look like Arbor Lakes over there in Maple Grove with all the billions of dollars? But what are they gonna do? They're gonna put an opera place over there on the lake. What is that gonna do for the black community? Nothing. I went to a gun prevention, violence, whatever crap town hall in Crystal a couple of nights ago, and I asked them the same thing. Here you are having these meetings out here. When is the last time somebody was shot and killed in Crystal? There wasn't. But you don't want to come down and have this very meeting in the heart of Minneapolis where somebody's getting shot every day. If we can't get together and talk to each other, then it's going to be for nothing. But going back to feed your future, that's what it comes down to be. Why are they, just like you said, why are they getting all this money and the black community is getting nothing?
Hey, you know what? On that note,
but some of that comes down to some of these programs, it has been reported that these entities that are getting the money, these were some of the first people to apply for it. In other words, somehow they must be getting some kind of inside information
Right.
because
Who's
they can
telling that,
go
Mr.
ahead and
Scott?
apply for these things. They can go ahead and apply, and they're the first in line. And so nobody's even knew about these things because they just started. So see, so there's a pipeline there too that I think needs to somehow be investigated. How is people getting this inside information to even go for? They're going after this money before it's even really set up. They just hear that
Uh-huh.
that's out there, and they're first in line to
It,
do it. And
Kickbacks,
that's the part I
kickbacks.
don't. Where are they getting the information? That's
Anthony,
Yeah.
Anthony, Anthony, that goes to when Don originally talked about I think you mentioned about it in the grant program. In the grant programs, it's extraordinarily incestuous. So Don, it's not exclusively the Department of Human Services who establishes the grant criteria, right? The program, and then the criteria for which you will apply, and then the evaluation team. There's a whole host of nonprofits that are right at the table, or people that used to work in the nonprofit industry, right? The Friends and Family Plan. And, I serve on the office of the Legislative Audit Commission, and we've done a ton just in looking at all of those grant processes, because it isn't fair at all. And
Yeah.
we have in that process, you're supposed to establish, there's a form you fill out that to identify a conflict of interest, right? Is that DHS employee a former employee of Lutheran Services or Catholic Charities or any of the other, by the way, Rev, I call them the non-profiteers, because they're nothing about nonprofit in their entire life.
Thank you very much. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Rev, there's another category of election profiteers. It's so damn profitable to live off this entire process. But what they do then is, in the almost exclusively in all the audits, when they go to check kind of that conflict of interest, who's a party to all of these decision making, and how do these same people keep getting the grants? And when they randomly select $150 million of programs of housing services, whatever the heck it is, they'll select 16, 18 of the actual cases to review. Not a single conflict of interest document is available. So either they didn't collect it, or they collected it and didn't retain it. Either way, that's an unacceptable business practice to justify to us as citizens and voters that conflict doesn't exist, and it's this incestuous circle of friends and families, and that's how it works. The other programs are the other ones, and we're kind of intertwine them here. You hear them a lot of what you see in kind of that nonprofit world are approved, qualified, reimbursable billing activities through Medicaid. And that is, right, you sign up to be a business, an autism service provider today, right? You went from 28 to 300, over 400 of them today. Almost all of it's fraud. Oh. And those are separate from the grant process, but very similar activities. That a small exclusive community, it's the same community. And I don't care if they're black, white, red, whatever it is. In this case, the majority of the evidence is leading to these small group of Somalians who are very well versed at knowing those programs are available and applying for them and establishing these businesses. And before it's up and running, they're stealing hundreds of millions of dollars. And there's no viable service. And the Department of Human Services, remember what I said? They craft, it's their sole purpose in life to manage those programs. And you, Don, you keep talking about, well, how do we fix it? It's by design. The only way you fix it is you have a governor that's willing to go out, and we have to really transform every single facet of delivering government services and the training model in which those people are trained. They're not all bad people, but the process allows this horrible ineffectiveness. And that ineffectiveness, I can tell you, it's not just stealing your hard-earned dollars, right? Mm-hmm. That same poor outcome affects every child, disabled service, right, disability, or elderly, nursing home service. All those vital services you depend on have horrible outcomes. It's not just dollars. People live in neglect and squalor. Yeah, and they die early and premature. That happens real frequently. That's the part we don't hear, because it's something that's hard to talk about, or it's not hard to talk about. You don't see it as, oh, it's $100 billion, whatever the theft is. but that same operational model is affecting everything we do, from our roads
Yeah.
to you name it. And so we have to have somebody that actually wants to get our government to be effective where we need them. We don't need them everywhere, but where we need them, we need them to be effective, because it needs to be the arbiter of fairness. That's what it's about. So that believe me, and you guys, I told everybody,
Yeah.
you guys, I don't think, Anthony, or you guys have been elected. I can tell you the only way you become more frustrated and pissed off, as you are today, is to get elected.
Wow. Why is that?
Vern on there. We got to blame Republicans for this too. Doesn't have any operational control over the government delivery vehicle, right? We write law, we write statutes, even with clear statutory intent. What the agencies do, what they choose to enforce, what they choose not to enforce, their efficiency or effectiveness, it essentially writes law without the lawmaking process. And we just don't have any levers to go out and say, oh, we're gonna influence this agency to do better. That's exclusively in the executive body.
You know what, Wes? There's someone.
Yes, sir.
I can't hear you. The background noise is incredible.
Okay, let me see. Let me move a little bit. How about now?
This is someone that owns the Jazz Network here in the Twin Cities. His name is Wes Smooth, and he's kind of been looking at some things. And back when, and thank you for those comments, Senator Koran. And I just told him he just dialed in. It's a kind of a new feature here that only let a few people play with right now, and it's working. And so, Wes, did you have something to say?
You know, with respect to all the gentlemen who spoke before me,
Yeah,
right now
we're looking at your ear. Yeah, thank you. There you go. There you go.
Not laugh. I mean, not that anything's funny that I'm laughing, but right now, you know, both black people and white people are at a place where they're like, how dare them be smarter than us and steal more money than us? Right now, it's a big thing of shame right now. And all of a sudden, everybody's experts on nonprofits and whatnot. Yeah, they said feed our future. They weren't talking about yours. They were talking about theirs. They fed themselves and for the future. And what it is people don't realize, you know, they're blaming everybody from the governor, this, that, and the other. They have to understand infiltration. They have people that's working with them. Just working, they have their own people in places and stuff like that. Unlike us, especially black people are really feeling the shame right now because they're looking at the unity. They're looking at the unity that those people have, though it may be have for a negative purpose. If we had that same unity, how far we could be, and looking at how much money they stole, we are looking at how far behind we really are. And we are facing, you know, we're made to face it. Our faces are being pushed in the snow saying, look at you. Look at you. You did nothing. You hate each other. You don't do for each other. You don't do anything. And they have. And so with that being said, a lot of people are embarrassed. They're shamed. It's a lot of emotion going on. You know, nobody talks about those Negroes who took all that money at the beginning of the year. They were all, you know, they had them all, you know, talking about this, that, and the other. And those resources, although they were crumbs, were supposed to go to our people. They still did nothing with that money. They took vacations. They did all kinds of other stuff. They did nothing, you know, with that money. Although they were crumbs, what people now, both black, white, are looking at the intelligence that they don't want to face up to, that these people were smart enough. They wasn't stealing. They were billing. They billed you and you paid them. You know, people are looking at that right now and they are ashamed. That's the emotion right now. People are ashamed to allow somebody to come here when you were already here, both black, white people. I mean, this goes with, you know, this goes with them. That somebody could come here and do what they did. And they know that what they did, it took a great deal of intelligence to do it. They know that. Nobody's giving them credit. God, these people were really, really clever in what they did, putting their people in place so that when those things went across, you'd rather blame the governor than to blame their people that works in these different departments, because they got their people everywhere working with them in unity. I'm going to stop there and listen.
Okay, thanks, Wes. Appreciate you.
Can I take that?
Please do.
Because there's a couple of things that he actually said that make sense. But then there's a couple of things he said. I'm gonna have to shake my head and say no. I don't think we're up as black people. I don't think we're upset because these people came and stole all this money. I think we're upset because the white liberal are willing to give these people that much money. But at the end of the day, also, again, I go back to say all the money that goes into North Minneapolis every single year, if you don't think that adds up to a lot of money, it does. We just don't see it. That's the point that I was making earlier today, right? We just don't see that money. If we got to see that money like we got to see it with the Somalians, then we would be going, holy smoke, that's a lot of money. But because that money comes in the community and it just literally vanishes because it does nothing. The killing is still there. The unemployment is still there. The trashy areas are still there. It literally, that money vanishes completely before it even gets anywhere near the community. So I understand what he's saying. I get it. There's only so many tokens in the community that these Democrat will run to. You don't hear a Democrat coming by Berean Missionary Baptist Church saying, hey, we need to speak with Reverend Christopher because we understand that he's out here feeding these homeless. We understand that he's buying diapers for these kids. We understand that last week he just picked up toys that he's going to be dropping off. We want to talk to him and we want to help him do the things here. You don't hear Democrats coming to me, but you see Democrats going to the so-called gatekeepers. You see him going there. You see Tim Walz running to the same black churches every time he get in trouble. Tim Walz will not give me 3 minutes of his time. Same thing with Lisa. Same thing with Lisa. Right? Here she is running for governor. I can't get Lisa to give me 3 minutes of her time. So it works both ways. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But then again, this brother, he's a good brother. His name's Marcus Smith, and he wrote something that's just of significance that I have to talk about because we've seen this in our community and the lack of unity for the last I'm gonna say 60 years. Okay, where things fell apart in 63 and 64. But one thing is, with all the black churches and the black reverends and that were feeding kids from 2020 till today in our community, when you find out that there's all this fraud that went on, and I'm blaming the people inside those buildings, those agencies that had the paperwork to put the money through SWIFT so the people can get paid in their accounts, That's who I'm blaming, that process there, because there should have been some check. I haven't heard a whisper out of the NAACP,
Yeah,
or the Urban League.
Again,
there you go,
Don.
There you go.
In addition to that, to this, what the programs we talked about, there are billions of other program dollars. And Rev, when we met, right, or held 10 years ago. Right, it's like, where are those dollars? And there's billions of dollars being fed into St. Paul, Minneapolis, and hardly a measurable outcome from any of it, right? In addition to all the things that we talked about, the extra programming and new programs, billions just in they're designed for every social ill, and every social ill that's been identified has increased exponentially, and it's still not, right? All the shootings, right, we hear is horrible at Annunciation. Right? Suddenly we got to ban guns and enunciate. Those are horrible crimes, right? Crazy psychopaths. But every day on the streets, it's happening in every neighborhood in St. Paul, Minneapolis.
Right.
And where's the call, right? And every officer, it doesn't matter, Hempen Ramsey gun. They know who all the violent people are shooting them up, carrying guns. They choose not to prosecute them. There has to be a consequence, and they do that willingly.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I see is that I don't know if it's inability or unwillingness. I mean, I look at, just for example, the area of 38th in Chicago, which is 3 or 4 blocks. I mean, they can't decide how to just reestablish the area again. They can't decide, can the buses go through or can they not go through, or do we have to call it certain names? We can't, it's the 38th in Chicago. It's a part of our city that needs to be treated like that. There needs to be police services through there. There needs to be bus service. I mean, that line connects with, can take you out to the Mall of America. You can get on that, get to Lake Street to get to St. Paul. You can, but all that's cut off now. Nothing. They're gonna. It's just deteriorating, and they're allowing just a small group of people to just do this to the city of Minneapolis. I mean, we have commissioners, we have people in the senators. I don't see anybody say anything about that.
You don't want to be called racist, Mr. Scott.
Well, we're past that. I know. I mean, that's a name, sticks and stones. I mean, But,
yep.
But that is an example of the inertia, to see that nothing can happen there, and people say they're being reelected on the basis of all they're doing for the community. But that stays right there, and nothing happens there. It's been taken over by a group that, and I'm sure they're getting some money somehow.
Yeah, they're getting money. They're getting paid, bro. They're getting paid, Mr. Scott.
Yeah, and so again, I get back to my original points before we get into this. I got a thing I want to talk about the ICE stuff, but I'll get to that in a minute. And it's 10:48, so I'll hurry up. It's like, how do we get to a point where this particular playing field is leveled inside of those agencies? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you go after MDE too hard, they'll play with your license if you're a teacher or admin. If you go after a school district too hard, they'll do the same thing. But the thing is, here we have someone inside the state agency that is willfully designing something for a particular group of people that excludes another group of people, and successfully delivering those dollars for programming that's not happening. So this is why we have all this fraud. But why is it so taboo to hold people accountable, just to ask them, hey, what are you doing? I didn't see 5,000 kids next door at this park getting fed during the pandemic. But then again, on the inside, no one in MDE went to check. No one at the housing services went to check anything. These autism centers that started out with 17 million and then went to triple digit in millions in less than, every year they went up $50 million. And I know that there's black kids here in the Twin Cities that have autism before these folks even got here. But I'm not really upset with them for getting the money, because we've been here and we haven't got the money. But then again, you look inside this agency, what is stopping? What is the difference between that black and this black to those people inside the agency? Because the Somalis didn't give themselves $250 million. The state of Minnesota did. MDE and all those
didn't show that they had the skills to do autism. They also didn't show that this is something that you need a trained person, medical professional.
Thank you.
So this is they're just letting people walk in, and then what the audacity of it, like over at the Griggs Midway building in St. Paul, you'll have 10 businesses in one door. There'll be a mailbox for every business, and it's the same people. Who has the skills to feed? Who has the skills, the ability to treat an autistic child and evaluate and diagnose this and treat it? But they don't seem to even ask that much. That's the part that I'm frustrated with.
Anthony, and you're right, but remember, they started earlier, right? The Department of Human Services defined the program criteria. And so to define a program criteria that around autism, and when they're experts, supposed to be, right, that they're hired to do this, they're either incompetent or complicit. I think they're both. And they've created that. And so and you've seen the headlines like, well, we don't have any criteria that they have to be certified or have any education in autism services, whatever that service would be. They have very few qualifications, no need to license them. There's no licensing requirement. And on a state that licenses people who sell worms. And then to have those programs go out there, and then they kind of do that leapfrog. You've seen the scenario. Well, good. Well, we'll get and it's almost exclusively, again, 90+% of those providers are Somalis and serving the Somali population. And then you got a Somali transportation provider, and then they're billing for translation services from a Somali provider to a Somali driver to a Somali patient.
They connected the dots.
Yeah, and so yeah, and I mean that, and they're just leapfrogging all of them. If you saw one of them, they figured out the rules that said you can bill for transportation services to a medical appointment not to exceed 60 miles. So they make up some phony appointment, pull something out of St. Cloud, 58-mile provider, but made a mythical provider, and they're literally making up 90% of the names, and nobody's checking it. And that's just the disgusting part. The only way it's going to change is somebody that's willing to be a governor that actually will impose the things that don't occur naturally in a government model. You talk about that accountability. You guys are all been in business. You guys are all been around long enough. Government is the only business process that has no naturally occurring corrective action for when they get their job wrong. It actually rewards itself, because as they have poor performance, what do we need? We need more money, more people.
Money. Yeah.
More money, more people, and we always get less. And the parts of the, hey, hopefully we could just get some is good, but getting some and actually having it improve and tackle those social ills that are real and identified and meaningful is what we fight for every day. But we don't control those dang levers of how they operate those things. And it's so frustrating, because we got plenty of money to address the issues and the greatest challenges. But you see, in the leadership side, there's favored status. You guys talk about them, right? Who's the gatekeepers? Who's the favored status? And they're there today. They are politically active in every facet, but grossly enabled by the lack of checks and balances that they built into the program.
Well, we gotta clean house. That's the only way. That's the only way. That's the only way. Because, like I said before, we just talked about it. If the same people stay in office, they're going to keep doing the same thing. They're going to keep dealing with the same gatekeepers. They're going to keep giving the same money to the same black churches, and nothing's going to change. That's the problem. So it's got to be. I mean, this got to be a Noah moment where a few people get in the ark and everybody else get washed away. Period. I mean, that's the only way we're going to clean this stuff up, and anything's going to change here in the state of Minnesota. That's going to be, and then the people who actually get put in office, they have to start working with people that's on the ground. They actually have to start working with people who put out the news. They can't turn their backs. The Republicans cannot get into office and not deal with black people.
100%.
Period. I mean, I'm gonna be like I said, I'm straight honest with you. And Mark, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not about to put Republican leadership up there and have them run this state, and you don't care about black people. You don't come into the black community. You don't deal with the black people. You don't, it doesn't matter. You got, they out here now, nobody will turn around. Look. Yeah, you're right. The president, he can say what he wants. Same thing with Tim, our governor.
Wow.
They're all running around saying stupid stuff, right? One calling somebody Hitler, the other calling somebody garbage. That we have sunk so low when it comes to politicians, right? We have. You would never hear that 10 years ago. You would never hear a politician sitting there calling somebody this and that and that. Never hear that. But now we're sunk so low. So we've got to get people into office who's going to put us back on track. We're off track now. We're way off track.
Yeah. You know what? And Reverend Christopher, I agree with that, like 80%, but then there's this 20% about organization. And something you had said earlier, and Anthony and Senator Koran, you know this. if you go back to even like, let's just say North Minneapolis, we're always picking on North Minneapolis, but we also got to remember the Phillips neighborhood in South Minneapolis. I think the First Porch neighborhood behind then
Yeah.
North Minneapolis. Okay, so let's talk about those two neighborhoods and the money from like 2005 to just 2010, the empowerment zone money, all this cash on paper that turned into cash, real cash for a lot of people, but nothing changed. And so I guess my thing is, how do we get inside of these systems? Now, when Mr. Edwards passed away in 2020 in that January, I says, you know what? I'm not going to no more of these community meetings. I says, I watched Mr. Edwards go to all these community meetings and nothing happened. And he was the historian. He had all the information and he would lay stuff out there and they wouldn't change. And they're still doing the same process. Reverend Christopher, I know you might have to go. Do you want to get in here?
No. Again, Don, I thank you. I thank you for letting me hang out with you guys today. Mr. Scott, I hope you get that snow out of the driveway, brother. I hope you get a hold of him. Get a hold of him. Keep at it. Get that snow out of there. Hey, it's always a pleasure, Mark. Anytime I get to talk to you, anytime I get to see you. And like I said, you need to go in there. You need to tell them Republicans that we're not invisible.
Rev, you know how hard I've worked to try and get in there and be in there consistently. We need leaders as well to provide an opportunity. And by the way, Rev, you know, I attended Bobby Joe's legislative session update right after the election, right over there at his home church with all his people. Yeah. And you know, the interesting thing is, Rev, that whole thing, Bobby Joe's been what, 20 years?
Something like that.
The entire community there was asking, what about us?
That's right.
In every way, shape, and form. He gave an update. He said, you know, the president's gonna get rid of the federal Department of Education. 3 guys stood up and said, great, because they've done crap, right? Yeah. And then
okay. He'll come right back. He froze for a moment.
And that was the right thing to say. Our process was, when will the legislative session reflect the needs of the Black population or be represented in the Black population? I can tell you from this, right, from within the legislative process, it almost is all exclusively sold to benefit. It was the Black legislative agenda.
Where? What?
In every facet of it. You look at the agenda, but none of it's hitting the street. I'm with you, right? But I'm telling you.
So that I guess that's the part that I'm at. I say, I mean, you put it on paper,
right?
But once you guys get it on paper, nobody comes into the community to tell us. Hold on, no, comes into the community to tell us what they got on paper. I mean, Lisa DeMott has to come to the community. Yeah. She cannot run for governor and not come into the community. She cannot do that.
I will agree with you.
So she got to sell herself to she's a Black woman that's got to sell herself to the Black community.
I agree.
That woman cannot run for governor and not come into the Black community. If she does, Mark, I will be the worst thing that the Republican Party ever seen. I promise you that.
Rev, you and I agree, 100%.
I promise you that.
One of the areas about and just kind of about the benefit the Black population, right, around cannabis, the decriminalization. By the way, some unique ties to that, to our entire conversation. Those running OCM today are the people who ran Feeding Our Future. Inside Department of MBE.
No!
MBE. Get out of here.
I'm not kidding. I'm not bold.
No.
It is. It is. It is.
I gotta go.
It is, bro.
I gotta go. You should have said that at the beginning of this show, Mark.
I was trying.
You did that on purpose to save Don, because you know I was going to be going off. He did it on purpose, Don. He did it on purpose. Hey, fam, I gotta go though. I got a birthday party. I gotta get all the way to Maple Grove to my grandson's birthday party.
All right, man. Have fun.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, y'all have a good one.
Okay.
Bye now.
Okay, let's put on the brakes and back up real quick. The The people who ran, this is breaking news. The
All right.
people who ran Feeding the Future inside of MDE are now running what?
OCM, Office of Cannabis Management. So
I knew they were
the
high.
lead attorney, and you look exactly what they did. They sold that, and part of that, my statement was, right, they sold it on, we're exclusively, we're going after the to benefit the Black community, OCM, right, or the legalization of cannabis. We're going to do all these things, help micro entrepreneurs, businesses, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Every politically aligned person got not only a cannabis license, a dispensary license, multiple licenses, and they're almost guaranteed. And it's like, gee, that the friends and family plan, and they got favored status outside of them rewarding, right? Think about it. They took 55 licenses, they gave them right to the tribes to put them right in anywhere they can, anywhere they choose to, Minneapolis or otherwise. They sold it on the backs of the Black population, and has done nothing to benefit the Black population as they designed, because they promise, right? They're promising everything to everybody, but again, follow what they do. And Rev gives me a lot of heat. Here's the reality for me. I'm not promising anything. We don't just go give anything away. That's not the role of government. The role of government is to make sure where it functionally needed to be the arbiters of equal contract management, an equal playing field, right? All that you're not paying any more taxes as an individual or your business, no more, no less. That's what government is. Now, do I believe there's needs? Heck yeah. We work hard to take care of those in great need. When we talk about grants, I think this grant process has just been so bastardized. It's not working for anybody. It's not working for you, Anthony. It's not working for anybody to say that we're getting great value. This is my 42nd year either working in government. I always had a job in the real world. Either selling into government. The things that actually work in government are delivered by private companies. That's what I used to do. And then I'm in year like 9 of serving. We have to get out of that mentality of if there's we have to determine a particular need is required, right? We know the social, right? We can go walk down the street, we can list a dozen real critical social needs. The legislature, we should get into that process of defining what that need is, and then moving the procurement of those services, not in a random grant process where you're just up in the air, to a competitive procurement process. And what that would do then is would allow, instead of chasing funding every 18 months and begging, it would allow us to build in more accountability, more transparency for both sides, us representing the state and what the needs are and kind of that accountability. We still need them to do their jobs better, right? All that stuff has to get better. But even for the people in the nonprofits who actually do the real good work, there are many that do great work.
Yes.
That we get a longer procurement contracts instead of an 18, you got 2 years basically, but by the time you get the money, you beg for the money, get the money.
I'll be right back. He's been freezing on his end. It must be cold out there.
Effective as possible because of that. And okay. So you go into longer contracts and you can build in service level agreements, kind of contract requirements that are measurable to hold both the vendor accountable and the state accountable on both sides. So those are the things that we fight for. We just want government that functions. We're so far from that you're seeing it in the headlines every day. It's really simple things. They just refuse to do them. So
what's going to happen this legislative session? I was wondering, is there going to be some kind of peel back? Again, I want to make it very clear that, I'm not really upset with the people inside of those organizations. It's more of the systems inside those organizations where those people have to work in, where there is not any follow through or any common sense whatsoever. Yep. So how do you rearrange something like that to make the organizational communication healthy, but also benefit? There's more than Black people here. There's Native, there's white, there's Asian. I mean, there's a variety. We have a multitude of cultures here, professional level, professional services that do good work. Yep. So how do we get to a point where those people get to come to the table? Because what I've been hearing in these grants and these different agencies, and someone called me on Wednesday and says, hey, this organization, I'm not going to name the organization, but but they got a lot of money. This organization has a donor advisory group of people from the Black community. And the guy listed some names. I says, oh, I would never get a nickel. if I was doing something, you know. And I says, no wonder these people over here didn't get anything because this guy and this guy got an issue. And I'm saying like, that's not fair. That's not okay. And so when you look at the big picture of things, this trickles down. These systems aren't working. So I was wondering, just is the state legislature going to take a close look at this? Do you guys have subpoena power? I'm ignorant on this stuff.
No.
Can you make them come to you and explain who signed these forms and did not check? Not to be what's the word I'm looking for? Accusatory, but just the accountability piece of it. Because
So,
yeah, I
so
mean that's where I'm at. Go ahead.
yeah, the thing you have, so the legislative audit, the office of the legislative auditor, right? They're the only entity who has that full ability to investigate and has actual full subpoena power over every agency, including the executive office. And I serve on the Legislative Audit Commission, and that entity actually reports to the legislature. So it's kind of your as a citizen, your only eyes and ears into that type of statutory compliance, whistleblowers, right? They take complaint, and by the way, they take complaints from individuals as well, right? If you see something and the work they've done, you can go out to their website and see all the reports they've done over the last 20 plus years. But they are the ones who can go and investigate those things. The greatest challenge we have with them, we just don't have enough of them. And it's a very skilled, we've got about 70 of them. It's my favorite role in my background lends well into helping grow them into be the most effective and nonpartisan, right? Call balls and strike, just go out and investigate. Everywhere they go, they find mostly gross mismanagement or non-compliance in standard business practices, but they are not the arbiter. You know what I mean? They make a recommendation. They have a whole host of legislative recommendations of either close gray areas in statute, which allow them to perform, you know, or to not be held accountable, even from that audit perspective. But they don't have any power outside of that, which it's a huge power. They have the power to inform. If they investigate and they suspect criminal activity, leads to investigation, they work directly with the BCA, the FBI, all of those things. Very great group of people that the average citizens have no idea they even exist. In the legislative body, there's only a couple committees that have subpoena power, typically the judiciary. And because it's got a 6-3, whoever's in majority has a 6 membership to 3 membership to the minority party. That leaves a supermajority. With a supermajority agreement, the committee can subpoena, right? Legal subpoena people in for to testify in front of a standard committee. It's rarely ever used. Today, it's all Democrat led. They aren't going to they're not going to shed any light on likely the largest reason that they perpetuate this is the number one donor to Democrat politics is who? Public unions. Yeah. Which is so they do everything they can to protect their workforce. The vast majority are good people, but the process just doesn't require. If you could keep getting paid for doing little, and without recourse, and then you keep getting paid when you do almost little to nothing, and you keep getting paid, you'll keep doing it. The human condition is amazing what torture it will accept, to where you're in a mind-melding, mind-numbing role that you used to have to at least show up. Today, they're all working from their basements, right? They aren't even accountable in any way, shape, or form. Try to make a phone call, All of the things, the critical service that we depend on are diminishing every day. And you're seeing it. The willful complicit, the ineffectiveness allows for the waste of billions of dollars on an annual basis to go out and really kind of tackle some of those core critical needs. But I think, Don, to me, when we talk about the business model of government and the business model of any private company, private nonprofits, right? All those things, you got to meet a payroll. All of these pressures will fix themselves. Either you got a business, right? Sales team stinks, you'll be fired, whatever it is that's not working. And, or if you're really good, the new guy is a little bit hungrier, is going to build a bigger, better widget, and they'll come in and kick your butt. And you have to be competitive. Government has none of them. And so it's really the training model, how private business trains their model. How do you have a continuous life cycle of job attachment, and why every single role exists? right? They don't do any of that. They don't have to, or they do it in a manner that meets their needs, not your needs as you're waiting ever for in DMV or any mandatory thing where you make an accommodation, significant accommodations to meet the comforts of when state government chooses to serve you. That's not how it's supposed to work.
No, not at all.
At all.
Not at all.
And so we're seeing state level government be as detached as any of us have access to our federal level of government. And to me, it's really about the training model. And we could have the best of both worlds. We could have a highly trained, highly effective state agency where we know we're getting great value from you, the theft of your wallet, right? That you get in the private sector, that it serves or functions in the same way. And the one way I try to point it out to people is that just the mentality on any major snowstorm in Minnesota, kind of pick one that people understand. In MnDOT, they'll do a geocache of how many people go based on that forecasted storm that have to come in for pre-prep, and they go on split shifts, 12/12s from the beginning of the snowstorm till the 3 to 4 days after the snowstorm to clean up. On any given day, maybe 250 plows are contained in that area. There could be 30 to 50 snow plows that never hit the streets. Never hit the streets. And we pay for them, they're there. But the mentality is in their world versus what a private sector world would be is that, and by the way, the reason we plow roads is the movement of commerce and public safety, right? That's what the roads do. And it's highly critical we get them clean. And MnDOT will tell you, well, we just don't have enough. We don't have enough plow drivers. And I look at them and say, you sure as hell do. You just haven't licensed all of them yet. And that's right. I mean, the reality, you got thousands of people in MnDOT. Every single person in that entity who is in over roads should be trained and certified at the lowest level of the industry or the service they provide. In this case, it would be a Class B commercial driver's license, so they can use a plow truck. We've got the best equipment that exists, and we would train and certify them, and they would take that over. Because Don, if you owned a plow company, and somebody said you had 250 plows, but you were going to have 50 of them sit idle for 24 hours a day between 4 to 11 days, and give up that many billable hours, you'll go out of business. But in that meantime, your accountant would be out plowing, right? Every single person in that company, including the owner, would be out plowing roads. And that kind of shows you the mentality of the difference between a government business model and a private business model. And so it's really that training methodology, and you prove and build in the accountability that every manager has to work down in the floor of the business unit in which they represent, or in our complicated world, State Department Human Services people should have to go down and work in not only within their own agency in the business units to understand why and how on a regular basis, but also in the county Department of Human Services, for which they've never worked. And county are the ones who deliver the services. They don't deliver, but they're the primary.
Don, I'm going to have to get going.
Yeah, we'll see when he comes back here.
Yeah.
And so,
cut off him.
Okay. Sorry about that.
But hey, and I wanted to hear something about ice. So I'm sorry I can't.
Oh.
Maybe
we're 15 minutes over past 11, and I was going to shut down 11. But Senator Koran, Anthony has to go, and I think
awesome.
I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. We could do this again next week, and just all this information, and I think it was very good. It's been very informational. But I'd like to thank you guys for Anthony, of course, and Reverend Christopher. But yeah, you kind of like opened up my mind to some things that I got to think about, that I got to look into, because there is something wrong, and we got to figure out how to fix it before we move forward. So thank you everyone for watching Our Black News, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you, Anthony.
Thank you.